Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Joanne Aoko and I hope your 2021 is taking you well. So this is my first video in 2021 and I'm going to show you guys how to crochet this skirt over here. But once you learn how to crochet the skirt, you can actually make the top on your own. And the pattern might look a little bit complicated, but it's super easy if you follow through. I would rate it as an intermediate pattern, but even a beginner can pull this if you follow keenly. And yeah, so that's how it looks like. It looks more of an infinite circle if you look closely. So I hope you'll enjoy this tutorial and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let's begin. So for the material, we're going to try this yarn over here, and special thanks to Selva all the way from Portugal for sponsoring this video by providing this amazing metallic yarn. I actually have a video of me unboxing yarns from Selva. If you haven't watched the unboxing video, you can check it up here. You'll be able to see some of the yarns that they sent me. And so today I'm going to make this tutorial using this yarn so that you can see the possibilities of how to go to make this yarn into use. And so this yarn is fingering yarn, as you can see, and I used 4.5 balls for the mini skirt and then 2.5 balls for the top. But you can use any other yarn of your choice as long as it's a fingering yarn preferably. But if you need like a metallic feel, I will suggest you can actually order some from them. Link in the description box. It will lead you to their profile, and they have different colors on this yarn. And the beauty of this yarn, it's not a must you make clothing with it. You can actually make home decor stuff. And yeah, and so for this yarn I used 3mm crochet hook. Definitely you need a tape measure for your sizing. You need a scissor to cut your yarn, and also you need a needle to weave in your yarn. So for this pattern, I'm going to start by chaining my hip size, but you can also start by chaining your bust size depending on how you normally put in your skirt. Some prefer putting the skirt from bottom going up, some prefer putting the skirt over your head going down. So whichever you're going to use, you can actually use your bust size or your hip size, but I'm going to use my hip size. So start by making a slip knot and leave a long tail, and then you're going to chain in multiple of 2. As for me, I'm going to chain 192 chain stitches. So please don't mind my nails, yet to make them, but I have to do this tutorial first, so please bear with me. Okay. Yeah, so now to begin on the next row, you're going to add 1 extra stitch to whatever you have so far, and then you're going to skip this stitch, and in the second chain from the hook make a single crochet, and then you're going to chain 2 more. So this single crochet and 2 more chains count as your first double crochet. So now let's start working on the pattern. You're going to chain 5. So after chaining 5, you're going to skip 3 stitches into the 4th one, make a double crochet. Now chain 2 and then skip 2 stitches into the 3rd one, make a double crochet. So now let's repeat the pattern again by chaining 5, 3, 4, 5. So after chaining 5, you're supposed to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, into the 4th one, make a double crochet. Now this is followed by chain 2, and then you're going to skip now 2 stitches and into the 3rd one, make a double crochet. Let's repeat this again. Chain 5, skip 3 stitches, and into the 4th one make a double crochet. Then this is followed by chain 2, and then now skip 2 stitches, into the 3rd one make a double crochet. Repeat this until the end of the row. I'm at the end of row 1, and you should be having something like this. So at the starting point of this row I have a chain 5, and then at the end I have completed my row with the chain 2s. So now to begin on the next row, you need to close up your row, so make sure your work is not twisted. So to close up the row, you're going to chain 1, and then make a slip stitch in the 3rd stitch, like that. So now here you have chain 5, so in the 3rd chain, this is where you're going to attach your yarn to close the row. So to begin on the next row, you're going to turn your work around, and then you're going to make a slip stitch in the chain 1 space that you've just created, like that, and then you're going to chain 3. This chain 3 counts as your first double crochet. So now let's start working on this other side. So where you have these 2 double crochets, we're going to make an inverted V-stitch, and to do that, to begin on this row, you need to chain 2 more. So now you have chain 5, so you're going to make a reducing double crochet like that, and then also go into this in the next double crochet stitch and make a reduction like this. So you have this inverted V stitch. So after that, chain 2, and then now you have the 5 chain stitches. Inside the 3rd stitch, you're going to make a V stitch. So make a double crochet, chain 2, and then make a double crochet in the same stitch to create a V stitch. Now chain 2, and now you have these 2 double crochets following each other. You are going to make a reduction like that to form an inverted V stitch. Chain 2. So inside the 3rd stitch, where you have the chain 5 spaces, you're going to make a V stitch by making a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet in the same space. And this is going to be your pattern until you complete the row. So repeat this. I'm going to meet you at the end of the row. I'm almost at the end of row 1. So after chaining 2, I have this chain 5 space, and I'm going to make a V stitch, chain 2, and then the final double crochet to form the V stitch. So now to close up the row, I'm going to chain 2, and then in the 3rd stitch I'm going to make a slip stitch to close the row. To begin on the next row, chain 5, turn your work around, always turn your work. So the chain 5, the first 3 counts as your first double crochet, and then the 2 extra is chain 2 space. So where you have this V stitch, you're going to create this row over here. So this row is going to be a repeat of the first row. So where you have the V stitch, you're going to create a double crochet in the first double crochet, chain 2, and then make a second double crochet over here. So now you have this stitch, which is this one over here, chain 2, sorry, chain 5 now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you're going to cross over onto the next V stitch, skip this one over here, and then on this V stitch you're going to make the first double crochet, chain 2, and then the second double crochet on the other side like this, chain 5, come to the V-stitch and create your first double crochet, chain 2, and then second double crochet in the V-stitch, and now you're going to chain 5. So repeat this pattern. I'm going to meet you at the end of the row. So I'm at the end of the row, and I would love you to be keen on the pattern because there's a sequence that we are following. So after making these 2 double crochet on top of this V-stitch, and I have this over here, it means now I have to chain 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and remember at the start of row we had something different, but it's because this is how the pattern dictates. So after chaining 5, you're going to make a slip stitch in the 3rd chain and close it up like that. So now let's begin on the 4th row. Begin by chaining 5, turn your work. It's important that you turn your work. So the first chain 3 is a double crochet, the extra 2 is chain 2 space, and now you have this chain 5 space. So in a place where you have the chain 5 space, you're supposed to do the V-stitch. So in the 3rd stitch, you're going to make a V-stitch, chain 2, and then 1 more double crochet in the same stitch. Chain 2, and in a place where you have these 2 double crochets, you're supposed to do an inverted double crochets. Basically it's a repeat of this 2nd row. I'm sorry about the noise, kids are playing outside. Chain 2, and then where you have the chain 5 spaces, you're going to make a V-stitch. So make your first double crochet, chain 2, and then 1 more double crochet to create a V-stitch. And where you have these 2 double crochets following each other, it's supposed to be an inverted V-stitch. So chain 2 and make a reduction to form the inverted V-stitch. So repeat this until the end of the row. To complete row 4, chain 2. I'm almost towards the end, and I'm going to reduce by making an inverted V-stitch like that. And now to complete the row, I have to chain 2, and make a slip stitch in the 3rd stitch of the chain 5 stitches and close it up. So the end of this row 4 completes our first batch of this pattern, and if you look at your work closely, you can be able to spot this circular pattern. So I'm using this color gold and it's not that visible, but if you're using a different color, you should be able to spot this pattern. So for the next row, it's going to be a repeat of what we've worked so far, a repeat of all these 4 rows. So let me show you how to go about it. You're going to chain 3 and turn your work around. This chain 3 counts as your first double crochet. So look keenly the way your pattern is going. So this is going to be a repeat of the very first pattern over here, and you're supposed to chain 5. So after this chaining 3 to build it up, chain 5, and then after chaining 5, where you have this V stitch, you're going to create 1 double crochet, chain 2. So 1 double crochet, chain 2, and then 1 more double crochet on the other side, like that. So you have the chain 5 stitches and 1 double crochet, chain 2, 1 double crochet. Now chain 5, you're going to go into this V stitch and create a double crochet, chain 2, and a double crochet. So as you can see, this pattern is quite simple, and you're going to repeat this pattern until the end of the row. It's actually a repeat of our very first pattern. So after you're done with the first row, you're going to repeat the second one, the third, and the fourth, and you're complete, and you'll have completed the second batch. So continue building up your stitch, covering your body. So this is from our waist, covering the hips going down. So I'm going to meet you when I get to my hips part and show you how to increase your work if there is need for you to do so. But the pattern is quite stretchy, or is it because I'm using this yarn and it's stretchy? So you can actually measure your work so far and determine if you really need to increase your work or you just need to work in straight line. So I'm around the hips area, and I just want to show you how to increase your work. I have made a few more rows, and this is a high waist for me. And to increase the hips, it's going to be pretty much simple. It's going to be the same pattern you're working on, just that you're going to play with your chain stitches. You're going to increase the chains. So as for me, I have completed my row with this pattern, the chain 5 with this over here, but probably you'd love to start increasing your work where you have this previous stitch over here. Don't worry, I'm going to show you how to go about it both. So for me, it's going to be a repeat of this previous row now. So begin the row by chaining 3 to build it up as your first double crochet. Turn your work around. So normally where you have this chain 5 space, you're supposed to make a V stitch, and you're supposed to space it out with chain 2. But now you're going to increase your stitches to chain 3. So add 1, 2, 3, and then make a V stitch. You space the V stitch with the chain 2 as always. Nothing is changing at this point. The only thing that is changing is the stitches that you are using to space it out. So after making the V stitch over here, so where you have this design, definitely you're supposed to make an inverted, this one over here, inverted V stitch. So you're supposed to chain 2 to space it out. Now increase by chaining 3. I hope you're understanding the technique. And then now make your inverted V stitch. And that's pretty much it. So the additional chain 1 stitches that you're making is going to increase your hip size. But in a case where you're making, the pattern you're working on is this chain 5 with this design over here, for you to increase that, this is what you're going to do. Instead of chaining 5, you're supposed to chain 7 now, but the rest of the pattern is going to be the same. It's only the chain stitches that you're going to play with. So the reason why it's supposed to be an odd number, so that you can have a middle point. In this case we have 5, so the third one is the middle stitch. So if you have 7, then the fourth one is going to be your middle stitch. So now go ahead and increase your hips, and then once you're done and you need to reduce your work now to form that body hugging effect, you know, accommodating your hips, and then it slims going downward, you're going to go back to the first pattern that you are making. So instead of reducing to chaining 3 to increasing to chaining 3 to space them out, go back to the chain 2. Instead of now chain 7, and now you go back to the chain 5. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. So now go ahead, complete it until you have your desired height. Remember, this is from the waist going down, covering your hips, and then I'm going to meet you at that point. So I have the total height of my skirt. So for me it's a mini skirt. So I'm just going to show you how to bind the down part, and it's just going to be plain double crochets. So, and I have completed my work with this row over here. It will be a different row, so it doesn't matter. So make a double crochet, chain 2, and then make a double crochet in the next chain 2 space. I'm just making one double crochet because I want to slim my work as well, and the pattern is quite stretchy. So in the next stitch, make one double crochet, in the next chain 2 space, one double crochet, where you have the double crochet, one double crochet, in the chain 2 space, one double crochet. So basically it's just one double crochet in the spaces and in double crochet stitches all around until you complete this row. At the end of the row, make a slip stitch into the first double crochet and then chain 2 and cut off your yarn. Leave a long tail to help you weave in your ends, I mean. So the reason why you're chaining 2 is to secure your work quite well. And so you're done with the binding of the down part. So now let's make the waist part. So before we start working on the waist, remember at the start this place has an opening, so you need to close it up first before we proceed. So it's like I have chain 1 here. I'm just going to make it to be chain 2, and then over here we have the up stitch, which was a double crochet. So I'm going to make a slip stitch on top of that double crochet, and then you can chain 1 and cut off your yarn, or you can chain 2 and secure your work properly well, like that. So the next step is just find any place and then attach your yarn. Attach your yarn by making a slip stitch and then attach it on any part of your skirt. I prefer here where we have the double crochet. So just pull your slip stitch through like that and then chain 2, and this chain 2 counts as your first double crochet. So where you have this space, make 3 double crochets inside the space. Where you have the wider gap for double crochet, where you have the smaller gap, 3 double crochet. Repeat this until you complete the row. At the end of the row, slip stitch into the first double crochet and close it off. To start off the next row, chain 2, turn your work around, and at this point you're going to make ribbing by making front post and back post. So this acts as your first front post. In the next stitch, make a back post double crochet. In the next stitch, make a front post double crochet. In the next stitch, back post double crochet. So you're going to keep on alternating front post and back post, and I'm going to meet you at the end of the row. So I'm done with my row of front post to back post. And as you can see, this gold color, I think it's reflecting too much light, but you have ribbing on the front side and also the same ribbing on the back side. So to close this row, you're just going to slip stitch into the first double crochet, and to begin on the next row you're going to chain 2 and then turn. It's pretty much simple. So where you have the back post, where you have a back post, you're going to make a back post, and then where you have a front post, pull it and make a front post. So this pattern is quite simple. You're going to repeat this, and then when you get to the end of the row, you're going to slip stitch, chain 2, turn, and keep on building your waistband. And then you're going to chain 1, cut off your yarn, and then you're going to make a long chain to act as a drawstring that we're going to fix around the waist. Finally done with the waistband, and this is how it looks like, both on the front and on the back part. And then I fixed the drawstring all around the waist. And yeah, the tutorial is finally done. I hope you enjoyed it. Please, before you log out, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I can't wait to see you in my next video. And also check out Selva, link in the description box, if you need to purchase this kind of yarn.